Okay, today I'm going to show you my actual shoe rotation from recovery and easy runs to race day and the type of race that I'm preparing for. And I'll show you when I insert my super shoes into a training block before a race and how you can do that to run faster sessions and faster races. Okay, easy runs and recovery runs. These have become my go-to for really slow recovery runs or easy runs. And I've got a long history with this shoe. When they first released this Pegasus Plus was called the Pegasus Turbo, and I absolutely loved it for even a trail race, 50 miles, 80 kilometers, and I would also often race marathons on the road because it gave you, and it still gives me, this propulsion which makes you feel a little bit more zippier than a non-carbon plated shoe, which we don't have to go very far back to look at. And I vividly remember a big breakthrough in the marathon time to 2 hours 2 and 59. So breaking that 2:3 barrier with Dennis Kometu in Berlin 2013, I'm pretty sure. This is a faster shoe than that. And that shows you just how much improvement in the technology, in the new product development or the research and development that has gone into shoes. And so on those days where I want an easy run with some faster strides at the end, it's the perfect shoe. And on those days also where my body is feeling a bit beat up and it's going to be a really nice slow recovery run, even though I know I shouldn't because there's probably too much cushion in them, I really like to go really slow and soft. And the Pegasus Turbo and the Pegasus Plus now is perfect for that. And I go through a lot of pairs of these. I've been through at least 60 to 100 pairs of the Pegasus Turbo and the Pegasus Plus now. And there is these 400 miles or 250 miles or 400 kilometers, and then you need to change your shoes. You can wear these for thousands of kilometers. It depends, of course, on how you run, how you're hitting the floor, how heavy you are, but I can easily get 1,000 kilometers, even 1,000 miles out of a pair of these. And then they look great, so they just become the shoes that I'm walking around in. Now, what I would recommend for recovery run days is the Nike Pegasus. And they're on the 42nd year, and that says a lot about Nike. This is not an advertisement for Nike, but as you know, one of the most annoying things that can happen is you fall in love with a shoe, you get used to it, you just get the next model when you need to change, you buy on discount when the old colorway or the old model is massively reduced, and you bulk buy because you found something that really works for you. And it's a great shoe, and obviously it stood the test of time. I will use it whether it's road, whether it's trail, exactly the same with the Pegasus Turbo and now the Pegasus Plus. A smooth, buttery trail, these shoes are perfect for. If I'm expecting surprises on the trail, it's slightly more technical or rocky, then this is perfect. It's essentially exactly the same shoe, so you can fit right into it, but it's way more grippier underneath. And it feels good to transition from one shoe and have a very familiar, similar ride in a shoe that has got different capabilities. Now, talking about shoes discontinuing, I was heartbroken when they went from the Pegasus Turbo to the Pegasus Turbo 2, which is this. If you look mainly at the heel, but also there's a huge difference in propulsion, the feel, but the heel for me would irritate me. So all of a sudden you've got your favorite shoe, and this is the Pegasus Plus, but the Pegasus Turbo turned into the Pegasus Turbo 2, and I thought they got it wrong, and I was very vocal about it with Nike. I said, you've got something perfect here. And maybe they would have listened to Jakob Ingebrigtsen or Eloyd, but I wasn't fast enough at the time, and so they ended up discontinuing the Pegasus Turbo, but then years later, we've now got the Pegasus Plus, which is an improved version. Again, on the topic of easy, comfortable, feel as if you can go all day, these are awesome. And the Nike Vomero Premium, for a lot of people, would be a good easy run day. For me, it takes it out of my calves a lot, but that's something I would just need to get used to. So what these have become is the shoe that I use when I want to be taller than my girlfriend, or fiance, I should say. Now we're on to fast shoes, and this is where For so long, Nike have been head and shoulders above everybody else. Right now, there is some serious competition. Puma are doing good things, Asics are doing good things, but I'm loyal to Nike as a brand because of the longevity. I've just shown you the Pegasus. It's in its year 42, it might be even year 43. And when I've been with Nike in the past as an athlete, I was lucky enough to go to their head office in Oregon, which is, the home of Bill Bowerman and Steve Prefontaine, and just as important, Phil Knight. And that is a great book to read, Shoe Dog. If you're interested in how Nike started, what it was before Nike, Blue Ribbon Shoe Company, and what it has evolved to today, because you walk into what you have to sign an NDA before you go in, but essentially it's like walking into NASA. And when you see just how serious they are and how many people are working in new product development, this was a major breakthrough in the end of 2016, 2017. The original 4%, 4% because it made you 4% faster. And I remember being in Berlin and putting these on for the first time and running on a treadmill, and it just felt alien. It felt like a very strange experience until I ramped up the speed, and they basically got better at what they're supposed to do as you got faster. And that's exactly what I love. They're just fit for purpose. And I feel that way myself. I'm fit for purpose to run distances as fast as I possibly can. And Nike seemed to do that perfectly. So this was incredible. And I've still got them because I know people are gonna look back to that 2017 phase where, if you remember, there was lots of talk about, is this mechanical doping? Are they gonna be banned? Are they gonna be actually available for recreational athletes? And that's when we saw times for the marathon just come down and come down. And then there was a refined version, and there was first the orange and then the blue, and definitely an improvement to what we'd already seen. For me, it felt narrow. And now with the hindsight, knowing what came next and the improvements that went on, then this wasn't the most stable shoe, but the times are there to show that it absolutely worked. Now, there's a really interesting story because people were going crazy for these, and the other brands were trying to do whatever they could to catch up, and they couldn't. I was using these for fast sessions, long runs, marathons. They were dominating everything and breaking all the world records from 5K on the road to marathon and beyond. And what happened, if you remember, then Nike said they were going to discontinue this shoe. Now that was a really bold move to everybody else in the world outside of Nike. But Nike knew, and this is the brilliant thing about Nike, Nike knew they had a winning hand. And although the other brands were trying to catch up, Nike was head and shoulders above, and nobody can argue with that. And the reason why, and this is simple, a simple fix for Nike right now, the reason why is because they were listening to the athletes and they were getting detailed feedback from E10, from Eliud Kipchoge's camp, as to what was working, what wasn't. And everyone knows Eliud for being an incredible athlete, an incredible marathon runner. They will not be a better marathon runner than Eliud, I'm sure, in my lifetime. He's also a brilliant human being and incredibly wise. But what he did remarkably well was he'd strip these apart and strip plenty of prototypes apart, together with his group of 30 athletes in his camp, and he would be really assertive with them that you need to tell me what's working, what's not, what needs removing, what needs changing. So he would literally present Nike with almost like a school project, each different page with a part of this ripped off to continually improve the shoe. So not only he could benefit from having the fastest shoes in the world that were constantly being improved and refined. And one of those breakthrough moments came when Nike said they were going to discontinue this shoe. And I remember being at Berlin Marathon 2018, and people at Berlin Marathon were panic buying these, as many pairs as they could carry. And I would see people at Berlin Airport with like 4 pairs attached to their bag because they were so good and so much faster than previous shoes that people thought Nike were crazy to want to discontinue them. And the funny thing is, what came next, I don't even have to show you because it was so good that I used all the pairs that I was given, because again, Nike had just eliminated the competition. When the competition was trying to catch up to the 4%, Nike were again head and shoulders again when they brought out the next percent. And in my opinion, it hasn't got better or faster than those original next percent. And the second next percent, the next percent 2, statistically, or shown with physics, were meant to be faster. For me, the original green and then pink next percent was as good as it's ever been, and as good as I can imagine it ever will be. And I'm just waiting for Nike to bring a better version or go back to that version. And I use those for specific long runs, especially when I'm getting towards the business end of marathon preparation. I use those specifically for the marathon, and I'll come to the reasons why and the choices that you've got in a second. And then I'll use them on the road for intervals, faster sessions, anything. Once I get to the business end of a training plan at marathon pace or faster than marathon pace. These for me are absolutely brilliant shoes. And the story behind them is, versus the 4%, and this would be much better if I actually had the next percent next to it, but I don't know whether it was 2018 at Berlin Marathon, but there was a conversation with Patrick Sang, Eliud's coach, and he was asked whether Eliud would break the world record the next day. I think it was 2018. I should have done my research. But when he was asked if he was confident that Eliud would break the record, his answer gave Nike, I'm sure they were already working on it, but gave Nike exactly, and the general public, exactly what needed to be improved in the 4% in order to make it a faster shoe. And that was 2 major things. Firstly, although super comfortable, this Flyknit upper, if it was raining, would quickly take on water and become heavier. And so when it's about every single gram and executing a marathon perfectly for just over 2 hours, that would matter. The other problem in the rain, there's actually not much traction there. And so if you need to slow down for corners because you're uncertain and you start to lose confidence whether the shoe is there for you when you're changing direction, again, that is going to slow you down, and at worst, you're going to slip or fall and injure yourself. So when Nike created the next percent, if you remember the green ones, I love them. What was awesome about them, number one, they were quite a lot wider, and so immediately you felt more stable. And as I said before, these felt narrow, but I'm not sure if they felt narrow at the time or just retrospectively once I knew what the feeling was in the next percent. And not only were they wider, and this is the next percent 3, but the first next percent had an incredible grip, and you just felt solid around corners, you felt solid in the rain. And then when you looked at the upper, and in my opinion, again, the next percent original had a 15-gram upper that was completely water resistant. And if you've got a shoe on that's not taking in any water, and also you're not worried that it is, again, you're confident around those corners, and you're confident that you can run fast. And we all feel like we can run faster when there's a little bit of rain. And now again, I do my intervals, specific marathon work, any specific race work in the Vaporfly 4. And it's fair to say that this is an improvement on the Vaporfly 3. It's a lighter, faster shoe. And if you look at the grip, it's gone back to the original, or very close to the original. I don't think it's as aggressive, the grip, the original next percent, but it's getting there. They are moving back to where they belong, which is that original green. I want to see the green next percent. And then summer of 2020, when everyone's outside on their bikes trying to avoid COVID, Nike released another blinder. Now, this is the thing, and I think, again, it's another genius move, but Nike then give you the option between 2 incredible super shoes. The competition has already started to catch up by then, and you're seeing other brands start to get somewhere near Nike. And I think what Nike does brilliantly then is give somebody, because it is whatever you see today on this video, It will all come down to personal choice. So your foot width, how much cushioning you want. Like when I showed you my recovery run shoe and my easy run shoe earlier, it's important to note that every week I will do, on the inside of a track, I'll do 2 kilometers barefoot to strengthen my feet because I'm always in 6, 8 or 10 mil drops. And that's along with foot strengthening exercises in the gym, that has been incredibly kind to me in terms of making you solid in that area, basically, but preventing anything around the foot, but things like plantar fasciitis and the bruising around your toe box and feels like a stress fracture, but super important. So little things like bringing a towel towards you, gripping it like a chimpanzee with your toes, fantastic thing to do. And I credit that 2 kilometers or 1.25 miles of barefoot running, even though it's on the grass, I credit that to so much strength around that area and the lower leg, but also reminding you to run like you did when you were a child, when you were probably at your peak as a runner, or at least your biomechanics. Now, I didn't like this model, and that, again, is the brilliant thing. So my thing was always the next percent, the Alphafly, the 4%, many names for the same thing, but this then gave athletes a choice, whether it was a 5K, 10K, marathon. And some people would prefer the Alphafly, and some people would prefer the Vaporfly. And you can see that in races with the elites in marathons, that a lot of the elite runners still prefer that next percent 2, the second generation of the green shoe, I call it, the next percent, the original. But what I do enjoy here is the grip. This is aggressive and you feel solid, it's wide. This is closer to the original next percent and even more aggressive. So you would feel even more stable around corners, even more stable in the rain. Was a great shoe, wasn't for me. But like everything with Nike, it's continually evolving. And although not necessarily in a perfectly upward direction, when you look at the Alphafly 3, which is very soon about to become Alphafly 4, comparing like for like in sizes, this was 230 grams or 8.1 ounces. This is 12 grams lighter. So 12 grams on each foot, more than that for a bigger size that I'm in. So 218 grams, 7.7 ounces. And I think the Alphafly 2 was around 250 grams. So it's not necessarily about weight. You've got to have the technology there to propel you forward. And this is the big deal. Whether it's your race day shoe, I think this is a preference for athletes over the 5K and 10K on the road. For some athletes, Eliud included, this is his favorite shoe for the marathon too. But when you look at the Pegasus Plus, which was the Pegasus Turbo, and the latest Nike Alphafly, the game has remained the same from that initial release in 2017. The game is about energy saving and propulsion. So what is most runners' feedback from the marathon? It starts to get hard in the last 10K or the last 10 miles and it becomes a war of attrition. My quads are on fire. These shoes, from the 2017 4% to the latest version of the Vaporfly or the latest version of the next percent to the Alphafly, the game has not changed. Propulsion, energy saving to deliver you to that 20-mile mark or 33 mark much fresher physically in your muscles than you was before, and at the same time, stride by stride, instead of energy wasting in the oscillation, and you can see this in the data in your Garmin, instead of that bounce rate from you being on the floor to at your highest in the stride length, you're now converting all the power, all the force, all the propulsion into moving forward. So for every single step, you're faster. I will show you soon in terms of efficiency and pace, and maybe even oxygen consumption or my running economy moving forward, the difference in performance between the Alphafly and the Vaporfly. So, recovery run on anything that's not a smooth trail, easy run, and probably this is my favorite. I'm so glad they listened to me and finally brought it back. I know for 5 or 6 years they wanted to save face, but it's big of them. Faster sessions and specific long runs was this, then this, then this, and now this. With, moving forward, a bit of this thrown in just to see if this could become either my shorter distance road racing shoe or even my marathon shoe. And I'm keen to see what the Generation 4 looks like in the Alphafly. But the first edition, used it for maybe something like 4 times 5 minutes on a treadmill. It didn't cooperate with my foot. As you can see, it's brand new, or as close to it as you can get. It will just stay in the museum, the Nike museum here at home. Now, there's a couple of things to mention here, and this gets real very, very quickly. I was speaking to somebody recently, and his goal was to be the fastest marathon runner in his family of all time. And he talked about running Boston Marathon in 2 hours and 58 minutes and 19 seconds, a little bit faster than his dad had run. But when I asked him when his dad ran that 2 hours 58, 18 or 19 seconds, and he told me it was 2010, then his dad would have run in a slower shoe than, I'm still gonna call it the Pegasus Turbo, but the Pegasus Plus. This is a faster shoe than anything produced before, I wanna say 2015, maybe even 2016. Because what it was about with race shoes, even marathon shoes, was very, very light, tiny little soles, and great if you're running very close to 2 hours, but if you're out there for 4 hours, 3.5 hours, just not gonna work for you. You need the protection against the tarmac. And then he also told me that his granddad had the second fastest time, and it was very close to his father's time, still under 3 hours. And he ran that at London Marathon in 1988 or 1999. And so, and I'm probably being a little bit dramatic here, but not far off, there were better shoes in the late 80s, but this is where it all started. Or very close to, with the waffle shoe that Bowerman and Prefontaine were experimenting with. And again, it's the January sale. So go out and treat your wife or your husband to Shoe Dog by Phil Knight and read it first yourself. My shoe rotation is very simple on purpose. It is very much like my diet. There are 3 or 4 go-to shoes, and if that just had to be 2 shoes, then it could be. They're all the same brand, which makes the ride in them very familiar. And I'm looking after my barefoot running and protecting that by running on the inside of a track. Don't do a track session if you're training for a road race, whether that's 5K, 10K or marathon. But where the track is useful is barefoot running, knowing that you're running on clean grass on the inside of the track, 2 kilometers a week or 1.25 miles. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I just want to say thank you for this year. It's been incredible. I love the channel. I love everything about running. I'm pretty sure that that's obvious. But what I love most about the channel specifically is the community. And I really do. It's the comments below. And if you read the comments below, it is people just getting up and getting after it. And there is nothing better than that, pursuing something challenging that is improving you in all those ways that I just said, physically, mentally, and physiologically. When you see those comments and also the support from other viewers, that alone would mean that I'll be doing this forever. With that and together, what I really love, which is coaching people to run faster than they ever think is possible, to blow past those limiting beliefs and just show them together over the weeks and months, they just become a completely different athlete, a completely different human being in a lot of aspects. And they literally shock themselves with what they're able to do. There is nothing more rewarding than that. And I'll give you the perfect example. A couple of Sundays ago, I've just spent the whole day tracking, refreshing a marathon website to track one of my runners. And we started working together 6 months ago, and he came to me, ran 5 hours and 11 minutes for the marathon. And he is a big guy who's incredibly strong. Like as a powerlifter, absolutely firing on all cylinders. A great guy as well, just firing on all cylinders in many aspects of his life. And just the type of person who gets it done, doesn't complain, just gets it done. And when we initially spoke, he said, I'm looking to run one day a 4-hour marathon, a sub 4-hour marathon. And I don't care whether it takes me a year or 5 years, I'm gonna do it. And I swear to God, like if that is your attitude going into something and you respect that it's a physical pursuit, it's a repetitive motion and you go at the body's pace, it's gonna happen for you. But within 6 months of him relentlessly executing and having setbacks and work trips and other things that don't fit in to a professional runner's life, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I watched the tracker and just press and refresh like a maniac. And I just watched him super disciplined in the beginning, running exactly to the plan that we set out, dropped a gel that is at the wrong time as well, like 20 miles in, you drop a gel, you lean down, you could cramp up, it can get to you psychologically. Had to go to the bathroom midway through the race, again, just curveball, speed bump, just moving them out of the way, executed and ran 3 hours and 56 minutes. I promise you, there is nothing more rewarding than that. And it doesn't matter to me whether you're aiming for the world record or whether you're aiming for a 40-minute 5K or a 5-hour marathon. What matters to me is the mentality. And the mentality within the comments is supportive, and it's, as I said before, it's people getting after it. And so I'm so thankful to that. So I wish you all an incredible 2026. I hope you go after whatever you really want to achieve.